Okay, then 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Coffee Breakdown. And today's guest is Luca Villato.
Hello.
No, I'm just kidding. So my name is Aaron, and
My name is
this
Luca, and
so
welcome
we're the
everyone.
hosts. Yeah, welcome. So we're the hosts of this podcast. And we just wanted to have this episode out there to kind of talk a bit about why we're making this platform, what we hope to achieve with it, and just give some better information on what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. And I think that we're just gonna go through a few things. Let's just start with that. So for me, I guess personally, we're just go with why we're doing this, right? So
Yeah. I mean, you're right. So behind this is really the idea of sharing what we want to do also with other people. So people that look at this channel for the first time and they see different people that are interviewed. They know what's our aim and what we want to achieve, like personally, and I think in also a bit bigger perspective.
yeah, exactly. So I guess we'll start with a little bit about ourselves. So both
Sure.
Luca,
Yeah.
both Luca and I, well, we did our PhDs basically. We met while we were doing our PhDs. We shared the same office, more or less. And
Unfortunately, I would say.
yeah,
No,
exactly. I had to see.
no,
I had
I'm
to see
joking.
this face every day. No, but we also worked on different topics. So I was more on the fusion plasmas and sort of data science of fusion and all the plasma physics related with hot magnetized plasmas. And I think
Yes.
Luca,
And I was doing a bit more low temperature plasmas, or it's also called laboratory plasmas, for the conversion of CO2 into other fuels, in fact. So it's still plasma part, and I was doing a bit more numerical work, developing codes to explain this dissociation mechanism and comparing with experiments. But of course, its plasma is in a different regime, is also a different type of work. It was interesting really sharing the office with Aaron and with people also doing different topics, because we could really share ideas, or we could really share things about our projects and in general chat about very different subjects. And I think this was one of the key that brought us to start a YouTube channel, really, that we were talking in the office.
Yeah, we talked a lot in the office, and actually we found out that both of us are very interested in science communication, and not just how do you present science to other scientists, but also science to the general public. And sort of one thing led to the other, and then we decided that this was a good way for both of us to not only practice our our own skills at communicating, but also try to introduce ideas to other people as well.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it was really I started opening my eyes, probably doing some teaching activities in Eindhoven, the Eindhoven University, and then also attending conferences. And I noticed really that the way you explain things to students and also to people that are a bit more technical experts in the field, at the end is not so different. You have to speak really clearly. You have to be able to make a speech that is linear logic from beginning to the end. And it was really, I wanted to sort of improve these skills and also share it with other people. This is the reason from my side why I started this activity, just really chatting with people. Yeah, I don't know what you think.
No, it's true, but like so absolutely when you make a formal presentation that it should be well constructed, you have not only the message that you want to say, but all the supporting evidence on why you think that this is correct.
Yeah,
And absolutely, I agree that it is
yeah.
a skill and
Although
you have to learn it.
although
But
I
I,
never
I
liked the.
also
Mhm.
I also want to say that like the process of developing that idea, right? Because we had a lot of chats over coffee mostly, right?
Yeah,
Over
exactly, exactly.
breaks or sometimes after work over a beer or something. But those chats, which were more informal and just kind of like throwing ideas on the table, those were also very important in developing
Yes, yes, I
those
agree.
ideas.
I
So
agree.
it's a less structured way of communicating, but not any less crucial, in my
Yes,
opinion.
I agree. I think this is an important difference of, so we don't want to resemble conferences that are virtual conferences. It's really an idea to chat, to share thoughts about some topics in a very informal way, as you would do it in a pub or in front of a coffee when you have a coffee break during work.
Mhm.
And to share not only about your work but also about your experiences, I would say.
Yeah,
um,
that's a secondary thing, right? Like that we really wanted to put on display with this channel is all the other topics besides the technical details, right? Like all the actual formulas, equations, and physical concepts.
yeah,
I think that there are many platforms and ways that people can communicate this, but it's sort of the other things like how you interact with other people, how do you network and build connections, how
yeah,
do you, you know, all the interpersonal stuff. I think that that's also quite important, which oh, we talk about during these coffee breaks or informal sessions, but you
yeah,
never hear them in any other platform, I think. So
yeah.
that's
Actually,
also why we want to expose that side a bit more too.
yeah, 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 exactly. I totally agree. And so maybe to add more on this point is also something that I really care when I talk about my work, or I talk about some topic in general. Just to express also the passion that I have for doing this topic, for doing science in general. And I really remember that the way I became interested into science also, it's not really going to school or doing equations and so on. That it's not fun, I mean, but it's really reading biography of scientists when I was really little.
Mm.
This Feynman or Einstein and so on, and you
Oh
read
yeah.
Fermi, Enrico Fermi, and I didn't understand their theories or their work. Of course, I was too young, but I was really fascinated by the human part of that
Mhm.
side. It's just, when they said, "Yeah, Feynman like go out and dancing or eating Japanese food," it's like, "Oh, me too, me too." It's like he's
Yeah.
in some way similar to me, and
Yeah, exactly.
I
You
think
get the sense of that these are actual like normal people, that they have
exactly, exactly,
experiences and
exactly,
interests outside of just like purely writing on paper and blackboards, right? Like
exactly, exactly.
they're real people. And I think also it's a funny thing you mentioned Feynman, because I also, when I was younger, would
Mhm.
just watch the recorded videos of his
Oh
public
yeah, yeah, yeah,
lectures. Oh man, like the way he can communicate to, and the crowd was just, they were not scientists per se. I'm sure some of them were, but they were just general people as well. And the
yeah.
way he could explain these deep physics concepts in such a intuitive
Simple, yeah,
and simple, natural manner, that for me was very, inspiring. It's like
yeah.
that's the level we kind of need, not to like oversimplify, but to just make
I
it
agree.
understandable,
I
right?
agree. I agree. And I think in Feynman, there is also some other next level that uh, I don't know. It's I saw probably only few people really mastering this very well. There is how he was communicating, the tone of voice that was a bit fast at some point and then a bit slow, and also the passion that he put in the
That's
topics.
exactly.
There are some videos where he talks about particles in general. What are particles and so on. And it's so fascinating, And this is something that if you go to school, you start studying physics and maths, So teachers start from the beginning, from the equations. This is the equation. And somehow it's implicit that you like the topic already.
Yeah.
It's not, first of all, I think you have to sort of transmit the passion, to transfer the passion to other people who are listening. And I hope some of these videos also like that. I'm not good as Feynman is, of course.
Not me neither, right? Yeah, but that's like super high level. He's like a legend, right? So
yeah.
But if we can hope to, grab a little bit of it and try our best, it's really going to. I think that's true. And I think you make a very good point. Like, it's very difficult to transmit that passion across to a student, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's one of the things that I've found is that the people you're talking to, they have their own interests and they may not be the same as your own, but at the end of the day, they still feed off that energy, right? Like, they see someone who's really into that work and like they really care about it, and they're able to explain it in like an interesting way, or at least a way that is captivating. And that makes them interested, right? In a way, it draws them in, even if they previously weren't. They're at least sort of like, okay, I will listen, right? And see what is here. And I think that is very hard to do. But the people who can do it, well, I mean, the people who can do it, they're like influencers, right? They could go around talking about anything almost.
True, but there are also good teachers who can do that, right? Yeah. In fact, okay, maybe we talk about that later. Just which topic we would like to bring in this channel, and I would like to talk not about plasma, so science in general, but also the way that you teach these topics at university.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe we can actually get into that now, because I remember at your defense, your promoter Jan van Dijk, he asked you the question like that you had interesting thoughts on how to teach science, and unfortunately, because of the way the ceremony or the defense goes, they had to cut you off because it was the time limit. And so we never got to hear your answer. So I am still curious. I'm still curious after so many months.
So first of all, I don't know if I want to answer because I already got the degree. So if my answer is bad, maybe they are going to take it from me.
Well, hopefully not, but I am still curious. Like,
no, so okay. First of all, teaching is very difficult, and I found it, at least for me, maybe for some other people it's a bit easier, just to interact with people that have about your age, and being on the other side it was difficult for me. And there are two aspects. First of all, you need, as you said, to explain concepts that are in principle difficult in a way that is understandable. And it's not always easy. Then you have to be able to catch the attention of people, because if you are talking for 1-2 hours, then people lose the attention. I also, when there is a talk, I'm not able to focus for 1 or 2 hours consecutively. So I need people who have this really, they can break. They have some moments in which there is this sort of spark, and they cut the attention, and they do something even crazy. I saw sometimes things like that done by teachers, and it was like,
really?
then I could focus even more. Yeah, of course. Or teachers that go around between the students and so on. It's not to scare them. It's just to make something a bit crazy, and
something a bit different to just sort of like wake them up and
exactly.
Get them paying attention again. Oh, that's fair.
Exactly. And then I like really much, at least the classes we were doing. They were not perfect. I was not experienced as well, but they were kind of interactive. So it's a mix between a sort of theoretical lesson and hands-on that also helps a lot to understand, make the concept your own concept, because you have to think about it.
Right. But I think you have a very good point. It's like the actual like attention span of someone, it's not that it's short, it's just it can't be continuous, right? Like it needs some
Exactly.
breaks to reset. Like also when I have my meetings with students, I try to keep them like half an hour. Sometimes they go an hour, but then in the middle we just talk about something random, like how's your day going, or did you see that whatever news, or what's going on, because
Yeah.
sometimes you just need it. Otherwise, you
One thing
become lost.
I think it's really important, not only in teaching, I think also in real life. If you think about maybe lessons you had at university, you don't have to go to the extreme. Extreme, I mean, for example, imagine the professor that have always the same tone of the voice, and speaking a bit like this and so on.
Yeah,
It
monotone.
becomes, yeah, monotone, exactly. So it becomes really difficult to follow. And also people who are exaggerated, it's just doing too much, that are overexcited. That's also on the other extreme, that is a bit too much. I think really the tone of voice, the gestures that you make, the breaks, the pauses, also have really a fundamental part on communication in general. They're called soft skills, and sometimes are a bit overlooked, in my opinion. Because
Yes,
I agree that you need to have content, but then on top of the content, it's important to put a good communication side. Yeah, this is my opinion, of course.
Yeah, well, I think you're right on that. I agree that especially in science, the soft skills are completely overlooked. I mean, there are some, I guess, some initiatives that help students to get that exposure, but they don't really teach them. It's more like you have to make a presentation, or you have to present your work on a poster, or you have to do group projects, right? That's a way of getting you to use your soft skills, but they don't teach them to you in the first place, right? So sure, you enter a group project, but if you don't know how to collaborate and discuss properly, it doesn't help you. In fact, it could make it worse because you have a bad experience with that group, and then you decide, I don't want to work with groups anymore, right? So I think that there's an attempt, but those skills are not fundamentally taught
Exactly.
by any school, to be honest.
Yeah. One thing I want to make clear, of course, I think for both of us, I mean, the purpose of this channel is not to teach this skill, because we are expert about it. It's just to share opinion about it, I think. So people could share their work if they want, what they are doing and so on, but also opinion about science communication in general.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. And for me right now, I'm also not looking into, numbers and so on of how many people are subscribed and so on. I'm just looking into having interesting conversation with people. So that's the point.
Yeah, that is true. I think that at the moment, if we were to talk about the numbers, like we're just starting. So
yeah, exactly.
All things considered, we have more people listening than I ever expected. Considering we only have like seven or so episodes. Yeah, more than two, exactly. More than us two. So it's already quite great that there's some people listening. I hope that they get from it that these messages, and I think that you're right that we should make the point that it's not our objective to teach soft skills per se, but the platform is, I would also want to put it forward as a way for young scientists to have a voice, so we can bring them on, they can talk about their ideas, they can practice their skills communicating through our platform, right? And so that's also why in most of my episodes I make a statement that we're all here to learn, like not just me and not just the people listening, but also the guest, right?
That is true.
I want them to try things, to
Yeah.
say things that are kind of they're not sure about, but it seems right to them, and then by talking about it they think about it more, and it helps them to develop the idea.
Yeah.
But if people say like, oh, they said this and then they you know attack them for saying it, then that's not good. Like
No,
that's
that's
not
not
how you
the
learn, right?
that's not the purpose. But here you raise,
Yeah.
I think, a good point, because I think, at least I'm a bit biased because I use YouTube a lot. I watch a lot of videos, a lot of podcasts. Most of them are structured in a sort of interview format in which there is a guest, rather important sometimes, and they just have a list of questions. And probably we would like to move, and here I also have to improve myself in that. So to a format in which there is a more sharing of ideas. It's not really the interviewer who asks questions. It's just that there is a general topic and we share about our opinion about the topic.
Yeah.
And in that sense, there is not an answer that is wrong or correct. It's different ideas from different people, I think.
Yeah, that's precisely it.
That's the interesting part.
Yeah, it's like mimicking the coffee breaks that we have. It's
Exactly,
just sort of
exactly.
informal discussions. Everyone puts forward their opinion,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's no conclusion at the end. Maybe we all just disagree, and that's okay as well, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
part of the conversation, and I think that it's important to
yeah.
understand.
Actually, then,
Yeah.
okay, maybe also to make it clear also for people watching the videos, I think it's nice also maybe you to say, so which topic you are most likely to present and which topic I am most likely to present. So when they see our faces, they know what to expect.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So I guess from my side, since my studies are related to fusion plasmas,
Mhm.
most of it will be related to fusion, at least in this beginning phase, or people who I have met through my experiences in the side of fusion. So even if we don't talk specifically about fusion, it'll be, well, in that realm or around that realm.
Exactly. So, and whereas myself, I mean, of course, due to the expertise I gained during my PhD, I will talk mainly about the low temperature plasmas or plasmas for industrial applications. Although, I already expressed the interest of trying to also have conversation with people doing different fields. And, I interview a friend of mine doing particle physics that is outside of my competencies, or I would like to interview people who do biology or maybe even psychology, and we'll see. But in order to start, since I'm more familiar and I have more contacts with people doing low temperature plasma, this is what I'm going to talk about, at least in the first phase.
Yeah, exactly. Like it would be nice. I think it is a sort of, let's say, long-term goal of
Exactly,
ours
exactly.
to branch away from our core field
Mhm.
of specialty, let's say, and start talking to people outside of our domain of expertise, because I think these ideas that we end up discussing in our videos are beyond like fusion and beyond low
That is
temperature
true. Yeah,
plasmas.
yeah,
They reach much further than that, and I think it would be valuable to also include the
yeah, yeah.
opinions of people from other fields.
And also, I
Um,
mean, overall, even just these two topics, overall, they are in somehow interconnected between each other. So even if I'll do some episode in which I interview some person doing fusion studies, or you do some episode about other person doing low temperature, it's just, I think it's normal. I think it's normal.
hmm.
So I think in general, we can say we are going to talk about science and in general about our ideas in the world around science.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that that makes sense. So actually, this comes back to another point that we were
Mhm.
discussing about earlier, right? Because they're two fields are linked in maybe a lot of cases from the fundamental equations, but they are very different branches of science. But also not only that, but they have different communities, right? There's
Oh,
different
yeah, yeah, yeah.
ways of doing things that we have found in between what you've
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
in science and versus what I've seen in science. So maybe we can talk about that a little
yeah.
bit.
For example, okay, let me introduce one topic that I find quite interesting, and I would like to bring also in the next episodes to this channel, is that this type of they're called low temperature plasmas, in fact, that they're basically discharges that are driven electrically by electric current, in fact. And it is well known that, for example, in some of the cases, you cannot neglect, for example, the interaction of the plasma with the surface. So the surface modifies the plasmas, and the plasma modifies the surface. So it's a mutual interaction. And so this brings a lot of people coming from different fields to actually study topics related to low temperature plasma. So people are expert in surface kinetics, people are now expert in biology, in computation, and this is called contamination in general science. So people from different fields giving benefits to another field, and this is something very interesting. I would like to try to
we wouldn't. It's funny because like I was thinking about it.
oh, no.
Like, I wouldn't use the word contamination.
No, okay. Okay, in this period, exactly, it's a very dangerous word.
I think the way no, it's not bad. I just was thinking about it, being like, what do, because I've heard the concept before, but I think we call it cross-pollination.
Okay, this is maybe a bit more
technical.
technical.
No, but fair enough. Continue. I was just like,
and no, this is thing. The different fields of science can benefit from each other. That is very intrinsic in the low temperature plasma science, probably also in fusion. I'm not sure. That I would like to bring people from different expertise.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say that in fusion, we have a large amount of this, surprisingly, because it's in the fusion field, there's of course the plasma physics, what's happening in the core of the reactor, whereas there's a lot of complicated phenomenon happening at once. Yeah. And plus it's a magnetized plasma, so that changes how its behavior, how it behaves very, very dramatically often. But then there's the rest of the reactor, right? The rest of the power plant, or, you know, there's like people who do cryostat, people who do like how designing different materials and metals and all this sorts of stuff to contain this plasma, to handle the high magnetic fields, to handle the high heat fluxes, to handle the neutron irradiation that's going to happen when fusion reactions start occurring. All this sorts of stuff, and they take people from all over the place. I would say our field is in terms of fusion research, is very diverse, but where it kind of unfortunately fails a little bit is the actual discussions between all these different camps, right? You have the people working on the diverter, and that's all they do, and they don't discuss, or at least they don't discuss as much as they should, I would say, with people who are working on other parts of the machine, because all of it is tied together into one device, and they don't, in reality, it won't operate in isolation. So when you do the research, you should also not do the research in isolation, right? Is my opinion, but we have a lot of diversity. People do talk, but I think it could be, there could be more. That's for sure.
But I think it's also not easy to have, you know, a global picture. Of course, it's probably in some sense the way that science is structured right now is a very sectorial. You know, you are the expert of this topic, right? And but okay, I think it's nice to discuss also our ideas. Where is our community going? What are the next interesting applications that are coming out? What would you improve in general? You know, it's very general topic.
Yeah, I think so, and I think in that sense, at least my my impression from the fusion field is that we're very fortunate that we have sort of like a goal. Everybody's going towards this fusion power plant reactor and wants to make it commercially
Yeah, yeah,
viable. And so there's like organizations like Eurofusion or even bigger that kind of oversee how the research is done and say, okay, these topics we want to focus on, and these ones are nice, but not part of the main focus. Of course, that's also dangerous because it means that everybody becomes very narrow-sighted. But I think that there is a benefit to having such organization in a way, right? It kind of like connects everyone.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
I
know how it
agree.
works. I don't know how it works
So
for your field.
I
So.
think so. We don't have such organizations. Of course, there are big projects that sort of include all different topics. Our community is probably a bit more scattered due to the different application. Some people working in the bit more green technologies, some people working on semiconductors, also people working on plasma medicine and so on. So nevertheless, I think there is a sort of internal organization in the community. So people are trying to drive where are we going next, asking these big questions. And it's interesting for me to trying to do that, even if I'm not, let's say, even if I don't have the status. You know what I mean? Even if I'm not a big professor, I can discuss also with other students. But what do you think is interesting? Where do you think are we going? Are we going to collaborate more tightly as a community? Because if I do semiconductor, maybe I have some knowledge that could also benefit people doing CO2 conversion, for example. So how are we going to collaborate? This is quite interesting, and it's something that I admire quite a bit of fusion community, that you have a greater goal, like the holy grail of fusion making.
That's true. I never, it is always, it's kind of what brings the international community together. It's like no matter what your specific specialization or your specific project is, you can always talk about that, like how is this is going to help bring fusion reactors to be reality, like how does all of this put together. And I think it's good for collaborating because you already have something in common with anyone else you meet at a conference, right? Like it helps to start discussing.
I think,
but I think you have a good point that it's not just the big organization that can do this. It's also from the ground up, the individual researchers who talk to each other and try to self-organize in a way. I think that that's also very valuable. And you're right. I think that this part of this platform is also for that in some sense, right? To initiate these discussions and see just on the person to person basis.
Of course, I mean, here I'm talking on in a smaller scale. I'm not saying that I want to drive the low temperature plasma community and so on. But in some sense, it may be interesting, when we interview people, maybe also as a future improvement, also to find a way somehow to stay in contact with these people. You know what I mean? So to create a sort of internal community is not just that I record an episode with you, but we stay in touch. Eventually, we could continue sharing our ideas and so on, and create a sort of small. In the future, I'm not talking now that we had 6-7 videos only, but trying to create a sort of coffee breakdown community of people that we interviewed that are very interesting people that we could share ideas with, and maybe eventually meet even in person one day and share a beer and have an interesting discussion. I think this is a good aim for this channel.
Fair enough. I go on that topic. It's not something that like I've played with it, the idea in my head, but I don't know how it will work out in reality. Because in like Discord, like I know lots of other YouTubers or whatever communities organize themselves in Discord, and it's just an open chat room. You jump in, you can talk with anybody who's there, and there's obviously lots of
Yeah, yeah.
conversations happening at the same time. We could envision doing something like that. Of course, with just us two, it will be hard to
Exactly. I
manage.
think by now not. I think we should aim in general to keep some sort of informal conversation with these people,
Yes.
as friendship level or so on, or collaboration is somehow. But yeah,
I mean,
I also
if
thought about Discord, but
if there's
we have to think.
interest, exactly, if there's a big enough interest in such a
Mhm.
such an endeavor, then we can think about trying to put something
Even
together.
even
But
something like a blog
uh,
or a forum where we post some interesting things could be an option. But I'm not saying we're going to do that. Just we will
yeah, yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's just an idea of just because you were saying that, and it just kind of popped in my head. Be like, oh yeah, I know, I was thinking about this before, but yeah, maybe it's too soon to be.
Yeah,
We're
yeah, of
not
course.
that. I mean, we're going up, but we're not that big yet. So I think that
Exactly, exactly.
it's good to keep in mind that if there is interest, we can try it, something like that. But
Mhm,
I agree. At the moment, I think these recorded conversations, informal conversations, we
mhm.
just keep doing that and see where it goes. Right. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And was thinking also the quality of my video that is become darker and darker in this room, but okay.
Same with me. Like you see back there,
Exactly.
it's like my entire the space is
No,
going into the
also
void.
the way, yeah, maybe this is a point. I think that the idea of our episode, at least by now, is that you could really listen to it also while doing other stuff. So you don't have to
Mm.
stay in front of your computer or watch the videos, even because, as you can see, my camera is not great. But but no, that is, yeah, the main idea.
Yeah, well, actually, I do want to say that one of the reasons why I really wanted, or at least agreed to do it, recording also the faces and then putting it on YouTube, is because that sometimes you can get, well, the communication is improved if you can
I
see the
agree.
face,
I agree.
right?
I
And
agree.
see how they're talking. It really gets the point across. Whereas if you only have to have your voice,
Yeah,
you
I
have to
agree.
be maybe much better, or very controlled on how you use your voice to communicate.
I
And
agree.
so it's also important to have the video in some cases, because sometimes you're in a meeting and everyone has their camera off, like a Zoom meeting, everyone has their camera off. It's like, I don't know
Yeah.
who's talking, I don't know what is happening, I hear the words, but like it's not a complete set of information. It makes it hard for me to understand sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that sense, like the video is there for people who want to use it or do use it to help them understand. But I agree that the content of the conversations are meant for kind of like, yeah, you're doing something else and you have it in the background and you just listen, right? It's not you don't have to sit at your computer and
Yeah, I
focus,
think this is one.
right?
Although it's a podcast, this is one of the reason I also prefer YouTube over Spotify. I think Spotify
Hmm.
you have only the voice, although
Mhm.
it's a very nice platform for podcaster. But at this point, and also for the people that I think for Spotify you need a much more organization, much more scripting on the episode. I think this recording of the episode, it helps also with video. It helps to have a bit more informal conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to also to like maybe stress another point and also to ask you what you think about is that we decided to not, because this is something we discussed, to not use presentation, so to not
Mhm.
ask the people that we invite to prepare a talk. And there are a lot of people doing that. Also, we have your friends in the Fusion EP talks that they
Right.
do that
Mhm.
actually quite successfully, very interesting. So if you can express your idea, so why do you think, why did we decide to not use a presentation, to not go in a presentation format?
Well, it's the same reason why I didn't want us to have a prepared list of questions and it turns out to be an interview. The reason is sometimes it becomes a little dry, like the passion that is there doesn't come across so well because you've prepared this elaborate, presentation or set of answers beforehand. And part of it, part of what the platform, in my opinion, I wanted to do was to show the creative side and the human side of the people who do science. And so it is that we make mistakes, that we say something and we say, oh no, wait a minute, that's not exactly correct, right? And then you go back and fix it, and that's okay. That's normal. Everybody does it. And you don't, it's not like scientists say everything right the first time. There is some, that's how we have a conversation. And also people are more creative when they don't have it prepared, right? If I mean, they should have something prepared, they should know what they're talking about generally.
Exactly.
But it doesn't need to be so strictly prepared, and that allows a bit more creativity, because then they can take ideas from other places that they just thought of while we were talking, and then put that into their answer. And I think that if you had a prepared set of slides, you would not do that. You would just say, okay, nice idea, but I already wrote something, so let's just say what I wrote, right?
Yeah,
And
I think
that for me is really why I chose not to do the presentations. Although it is a valid way of presenting, it's just not what I was aiming for. That's true.
yeah.
But
I think you said everything. I mean, we discussed, of course, before starting this channel about it, and I have the same opinion. Of course, presentations are really powerful, and I think with one plot, sometimes scientific plot, I mean, you can say many more things than even a 1 hour long conversation.
maybe,
You can really
yeah.
visually see what I mean with a graph.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think I appreciate now really having a sort of informal conversation with people, as you have said, to show a bit the human side behind, to share ideas, opinion about some topics, and also it takes less time also for the guests. I have to say that although that all the episodes we do are not completely unprepared, of course. So
of course,
we agree about the topic in advance. If there are some things that we are not comfortable to say, or the other person is not comfortable to talk about, we don't ask a random question. We don't talk about random topics. So I think this is important. So there is a sort of organization still behind. So people who are the guests do not have to be afraid that the conversation can go randomly in any direction, because it's a bit something that could stop people from participating. I can imagine. Whereas if you have your own presentation, in this slide, I'm going to say this thing, and maybe there can be questions, but it's kind of easy.
It's a bit of a balance, and it's for me, it's like when I ask someone if they would like to be a guest on the podcast, I always come up with, a set of topics or questions that, I think it would be nice to talk about with them. I take into account their expertise. I take into account things that I might previously know about them in terms of what they care about, what they, their opinions. And I want to ask them about, ask them to elaborate on that. And that's, how I normally do it. But then I also say that we don't have to ask these questions, and we don't have to ask only these questions. So while we're talking, if you say something and then I'm like, oh, that's a cool, that's actually a good point, let's talk about that a bit more, we have the flexibility to kind of go around. And I think that's important to say that it's not completely unprepared, but it's not completely prepared either. It's kind of a balance. And
Exactly.
it's true that I think for me the most part is communicating that you don't have, at least to be somewhat a guest on this platform, you don't have to be 100% correct, right? It's really opinions and sharing your viewpoints and your experiences and, learning as a result of all of it. So I think that is one thing that we should, that I want to make clear for everybody listening, and maybe also other people who might be interested in coming on, that it is not a requirement that you're super expert, like everything you say is correct. And so
Exactly. I think it's
because
very
I make a million mistakes. I mean, if you go look back at my episodes, I'm sure I said so many things that were pretty dumb. So
no, I think it's a good point. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that that's one of the topics that is important, because we really want to also engage the younger audience, like people who are studying
It's really
PhDs
important. Yes,
or
true.
young scientists. And as you said, they may not have the, status, or feel that they have the status to make such comments, let's say. But I think that's not correct. I think we shouldn't be looking at it that way, because in the end of the day, they will become scientists and they will need to learn how to state their opinions. And
Exactly. I
why
agree.
not?
I mean, for me, to summarize, it's a way to share to other people our passion about these topics, about science in general, and also have a way to have an informal conversation with people who can share their interesting ideas, eventually their work, their opinions about different topics. And without the aim or without we don't want to teach anyone. We don't want to. This is not the truth. It's just that it's how I think science is done. There is a sort of community effort. It's really, uh, all people discuss it together and so on, and then we progress. This is, I think, how science is. It's a sort of spiral that is growing and growing and growing altogether, and you cannot ignore what is happening around you. Of course, you can work and so on, and we're talking to people, but then the community around is going in some direction, and it's really nice to share these ideas with also young people about our age and so on. What do we think? Maybe we'll change our mind in a few years, but it was still a nice conversation.
Yeah, precisely. And I agree with you. Well, there's a sentiment that I have. It's like what makes the science so rich and interesting, and also what helps it to progress, is the community. But in order to have a community, they have to interact, they have to discuss, and some people have to kind of work together and figure out which ideas or opinions in the community are, collectively we can all agree on. This is where we want to go. But if you don't have the discussions in the first place, then how, then that richness is gone, right? And I think that's a very good point, that we need people. You can work single-mindedly, but it doesn't add to the richness of the science.
Another, I think, important point that we should stress on. So maybe not everyone, watch the episodes would like to participate, to be recorded and so on. But we would appreciate very much your feedback, your comment. What do you think? If there's something to be improved, I think I think we could benefit not only from people that we invite, but also for other people that are watching. And because I think everyone has different ideas, I would have said this thing in a different way, or probably my idea, my opinion on this topic is different than yours. So, you know, it's not a way to correct and so on, but I would appreciate very much feedback or comments on the videos.
Yeah, that's
Or also
absolutely
address
true.
personally. If you want to contact me by email, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So in the description of this episode, we're gonna put our emails that you can contact us if you want to do so privately. The comment sections are always open. So if you want to leave a more public response, please go
You're
ahead.
becoming a real influencer now.
We encourage you to use it. No, yeah.
No, it's
You're the one who said that we should have people comment, right? So
I mean, the secret aim of this channel is that at some point we are going to do like product placement is just buy these tissues.
yeah.
You know, they are paying us, so you have to buy. No, it's not that. It's just of course
no,
it's not.
no. It's yeah, exactly. No, it's, I gotta bring the cola can in.
Exactly.
Delicious cola, refreshing. Get your day off to a great start, you know.
Oh wow! Now I have excellent ideas for next videos. You know, a sort of intermezzo with a fake advertisement.
Oh man, that would be incredible. But, yeah. But for sure, everybody else, like, it would be very nice if you kind of let us know how we're doing. Let us know if the topics we're discussing resonate with you, or if you have a different opinion and you think that we should also cover that in some way, or give homage to that. Absolutely, we're always open to feedback, as the point of the channel is that we're all learning, even us. So please let us know what we can do better, and that is definitely for sure. So I guess with that, I think we're that covers pretty much everything we wanted to talk about in this episode. So thank you, Luca. Thank you,
Aaron. No. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, so
no, but so everybody, thanks for tuning in this time to our episode of Coffee Breakdown, and we hope that you'll find a reason to get involved, and if not, just stay tuned, and we hope you enjoy the content that we're creating.
See you soon, and bye.
Bye.